Welcome, everyone. This is another episode of Touchlab Share. We're really excited to be joined by Guillermo and Zeyad of Glovo. Quick little background on Glovo. They're an app that allows you to get the best products of your city in a few minutes. So obviously with a lot of the stuff that's happening with the pandemic and really folks staying at home, I'm sure their business has been exploding this year in a great way. So we're really excited to talk to them about their Kotlin Multiplatform mobile efforts. So I'll hand it over to Guillermo and Zeyad. If you can just give a quick introduction to yourselves and what you do at Glovo, that'd be great.
Hi all, I'm Guillermo. I'm Argentinian living in Barcelona now. I'm an Android engineer, mostly Android engineer here at Glovo. I joined the company almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, my name is Zeyad. I'm from Egypt. I've been working at Glovo for 2.5 years now. I've been leading the courier app, the one that all the delivery guys use to get our customers their orders as fast as possible.
And just to kind of give us an idea of the size of the products that you work on, do you have those kind of figures and stats, like just some high level stats in terms of install base and transactions, anything like that you can kind of share?
On the top of my head, I think we're like in 24 countries. We operate in 24 countries, mainly around EMEA, some parts in Central Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa as well. Like I don't have the stats on the top of my head, but we are the biggest player in our region for sure.
Got it. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that folks kind of understood, because some of our audience is obviously in the United States and may not have heard of Glovo. I just want to make sure that they're aware of kind of the sheer size that you have in that particular part of the world. So congrats on all the amazing work you've been doing so far on that. I'm sure it's well regarded. Okay, so the first question that I have is let's start at the beginning, right? Can you guys kind of both pinpoint when you first heard about Kotlin Multiplatform Mobile, and what were some of your initial thoughts there?
For me, to be honest, I don't remember when I first met Kotlin Multiplatform. I knew from the very beginning that Kotlin was not just another JVM language. I remember seeing something for JavaScript also, but at some point, I integrated plugin, I started to see some targets, and that doesn't make any sense with the I was seeing before. And then I realized that they were planning the technology to have like an abstract way to have an abstract language that you can then dump into any platforms. And that's when I realized about Kotlin Multiplatform after researching on it.
As for me, I think I learned about it when Kotlin, like they announced it, I think some years ago. I was intrigued. I said like, yeah, maybe this is yet again another multi-platform technology that came out. And but yeah, I've been using Kotlin for a while and I was like, okay, this seems interesting. It wasn't like Flutter or the other ones that you had to learn something new or like a whole new language. And then, yeah, I started playing around with it with some side projects. I really like that you can basically put it anywhere. It doesn't really have to be just with mobile. You can put it in a website, in a desktop application. And I really enjoyed like the ideology or like the strategy behind it and how easy it is to integrate. I've been using it in side projects. I see it personally as the future of front-end development, at least. I think a lot of in the future, we won't have iOS and Android and web. We're just going to have one developer that does all of these things.
I think we talk about that a lot, right? Kind of blurring the lines between Android and iOS, and instead of just being a mobile developer in general. When the use case of KMM at Glovo is particularly focused on analytics. I want to focus and talk a little bit about the pain points. What are some of the pain points on the mobile development front when it comes to analytics, when you're kind of dealing with two platforms? Anything to share there that you think is important?
Actually, it's not just two platforms. For us, it's mostly four, because we are also doing this for web, and backend has its own solution, but initially we will consider using this for backend as well. So the pain points is the ones that you may imagine. There was not like a clear definition of what are the data we wanted to track, and then some teams have something has defined an event, and maybe there was some case small difference between the events from one platform or between one platform and the other, or maybe they lack from an attribute, or they have different values for the enums. I mean, a lot of examples of this. Also, the biggest issue we had was when we started introducing a list of IDs as an attribute. It was seriously into a native to a string from the platform, which at the end for data was different. It was hard to identify what was the right separator between the one element and the other, and was causing issues. So with all of this is when I started. I mean, actually, it was not me. I was just looking, having some experimentation on Kotlin Multiplatform, and a very nice PO we have here. See the opportunity to introduce this as a solution for the problems that we were having. At some point, my initially POC, that it was just an internal testing for me because I wanted to try something. Before I realized we have a story for it, and we have a whole team allocated to work on this. So, I mean, I don't know how it happened, but I need to thank Alina for that.
You mentioned that Kotlin Multiplatform didn't look like just another multi-platform, cross-platform solution. Was there something about it that made it stick out specifically for analytics over other cross-platform solutions? Did you try any other cross-platform solutions?
So analytics was a pain point for us because all our data analysts were complaining about like the data was inconsistent, and then we couldn't get the value that we wanted to get it out of. And on the other hand, it was also the least invasive way to integrate it into our apps, because analytics is basically we use the library to generate those events. So we make sure that all the events are the same, but each platform uses its own mechanisms to report these events. This is why we went with the Kotlin Multiplatform. We can just have something that creates events, and then each platform can take it as it is. And that made it a bit seamless to integrate, and we didn't have any issues with it.
So you're able to kind of compartmentalize that part of it and not have to make a bigger change?
Exactly. It's a dependency that we add as one line of code in our Gradle file, and then we can generate whatever events that we want.
We are using Kotlin Multiplatform as a multi-platform library with its dependencies. One of the goals was for me when we started this process was not to change the way other teams works with the platform. So the short story is that we build everything based on Kotlin Multiplatform, but we publish an npm package for web, and we publish a Cocoa pod for iOS.
One of the things that I find interesting is how your teams, right, the people that you interact with, your engineering team, the before and after. Guillermo, you put together this POC, the team, built upon it. How did things look before? How did things look after? What was some of the improvements that were achieved with this Kotlin Multiplatform project that you put together?
Kotlin Multiplatform is just one piece of the whole solution. So was not just the difference between the platforms. Our problem with analytics was bigger than that. I mean, we don't have formal definitions of events from product until data. Basically, no one knows what events. I mean, there's no central repository saying these are the events that we are tracking with this information. So we started from that. So I proposed to have some YAML, a simple YAML format to document an event. You have the name, the description, when it's supposed to be triggered, and what are the parameters and these types. So from there, we generate code in Kotlin that is then merged with the base code of the Kotlin Multiplatform library and produce these artifacts for each platform. We are doing even more. We also have within the same YAML, we now have an integration with our Confluence page. So every time the library gets updated with a new event, we also have a Confluence page that actually documents the events for all the company to look and see what events are we tracking. And in the biggest scope of the roadmap, which we didn't implement, we also wanted to have live tracking on that. By our monitoring solution, we can, in a way that we can see if this event that is defined is actually getting tracked by the platforms and see what version. That was a big picture, but we didn't went so far. So we just finished this project, and that was postponed to the second iteration that I don't know if it's going to happen or not.
But also one of the changes that happened, that we had a change in the process where now data analysts are the ones who create the events. So they go open a PR, they write a simple YML file, a YAML file, and then we as developers, we just go make sure that it's fine. We open a PR, we review, approve, and then a new version of the library is released.
That's another good point, because for this, business people or data analyst people need to reach developers to know what was the definition of the event or see source code. I mean, that was the gap that we were trying to solve. Now we have YAML, which is a very clear and easy format. Anyone can understand it, and with that, or even the conference page, they can have their own answers. So now the code is just one step in the middle.
This is super interesting to me, the way you're saying it was the least invasive way to improve. And you brought in different people from the business. You're leveraging their skills for what would make the most sense for them to work on in order to support other teams and what they need to work on. How did you go about figuring out where those puzzle pieces were, getting people on board and recognizing that this is what we're going to need to do and KMP is going to be part of that solution?
We worked a whole quarter on this, and I had a dedicated team for this. So we have a dedicated PM, it's product manager for this goal. I mean, we set all the heads together. I mean, we have people from business, people from data, and engineers looking at how we change this process in a way that is better than it was before. So that was the goal. As I say, we allocate 3 months of last year working on this.
Yeah, and this was like a priority for us because at Glovo, we try to take all our decisions based on data. And if our data doesn't make sense, it doesn't really translate into good decisions. So it was kind of a priority.
One of the goals that we wanted to achieve is, as we are a data-driven company, the goal of this team is that we can trust the data that we produce.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. There's a company-wide initiative that you want to standardize the data, be smarter about your business decisions with data, and KMP was one part of that puzzle of how you achieve that on the mobile front. And it provided that acceleration boost to do certain things once and have it be available on some of the multiple platforms that you support. So that's certainly both a business accomplishment and a technical accomplishment. So again, congrats and for kind of pioneering that work and sharing the story with us, because we definitely find it interesting and it's something that we're seeing across our clients as well. Can we go a little bit, I don't know if you already touched this upon this a little bit, but can we go into some of the technical aspects of the solution? Is there more that you want to share about that?
At big scale, we have defined like some base interface or abstract classes that will represent the different kind of events that we have. I mean, like a screen event, a custom event. It was more tied to the underneath solution that we had before. And some generic logic, like analytic service that can accept that event, make some transformation internally. The actually data sending to the underneath technology that we had before, which is in particle, was kept into the original platform. So basically, our analytic solution is just a translator between high-level objects into raw data. We did it like this because we don't want to interfere and we want to both solutions to exist for a while with the existing platforms, and each platform has its own way to certify dependencies, to configure the SDKs, and all the stuff. So we cut the scope and we say, okay, our library, which the goal was just to be a translation of the data. We have several, I don't know how deep you want me to go in details, but mostly for web. Java JVM was not the problem because it's the native, basically, it's not the problem. We have two big issues, no issue, but challenge with, of course, iOS and JavaScript of different kind. Let's start with iOS. The main issues was for iOS guy was uncomfortable to use because even if it has the genetic code has Swift annotations, it's not Swift, it's Objective-C. So they don't have like the full documentation, they don't have like a good signature or stuff. And also there was some problems with typecasting, mostly with optionals and native interhairs and longs. I wrote some base code to overcome this, but it's not clear as I would expect for them because, at the end we were just pushing them code and I expect to have Swift and they didn't. But I'm hoping that could have a lot of improvement in the future. And the second big issue, which was a big issue for us also, was the memory management. If you are using Kotlin Multiplatform, you may know at this point that the memory management for Kotlin native is different than the one that we expect, mostly for this thing mutable or shared mutual exclusion. So for us, even if we don't have much collection in this approach, because we don't, it's just a mapper, we did keep like a global set of attributes, which was in the main class, in the main service. So all events will have these attributes by default, so you can set them, which implied that we have mutable map. For Kotlin native, there is no, at least as far as I know, there is no mutable share collection. that we can use by default. That's when I realized about you, because you have your set of, actually I contacted you for this, you have your set of collection build up in Kotlin Multiplatform regarding this, but at the point that I was working on this, there was no support for web, which was a blocker for us. So I ended up building my own easy approach just for the mutable map for Kotlin native, but we have a big issue at some point because I made a mistake and it was not detected by the test. So basically all the phones end in the if loop. Hopefully we managed to fix this, but anyway, we had that issue. So that's for iOS. For web, surprisingly, Kotlin JS is pretty much mature for the way I see it. We don't have much issues. The big issue that, not the big issue, the main problem that I see, and probably that still exists, is that Kotlin JS is great if you are writing code in Kotlin, but if you expect, for instance, from the feedback that they get from the web developers is that they will expect that the regular JavaScript object will be translated automatically to a map in Kotlin. And that's not the case, because the way how we work internally, maps and collections had their own class. At the point we built this, we didn't have TypeScript either. Now we have TypeScript, but we didn't migrate yet. So they cannot know exactly what was the signature that was expected. So to overcome that, and because I wanted to basically make easy for them to work on this, I grow some with the Kotlin Multiplatform feature that is spec and actual. I grow some internal hacking. I mean, it's a hack. I know I documented it as a hack, but basically I will accept anything from them. And I will try to convert it. If I was expecting a map and I have a JavaScript object, I will convert it to a Kotlin map internally and transparent for them. So the way they are happy, they just provide whatever they want, and I will translate internally into the JavaScript target with the actual. We will do all the conversion, and for the other target, it's just return the same object. Technically, I think those are the biggest challenges that we face, besides the packaging issues that we have. If we got time, I can comment that later, otherwise we can keep it. It's the way we use the library that we have the issues, it's not the way that they use this library meant to be used. You won't have these issues.
I also remember backend, our front-end developers, they were also saying that the size of the library would be very big, and that was like a concern that they had. And we're still trying to figure that out. I know that the JetBrains people have this as a priority, so we're looking closely for this.
That's a clarifying question. That is that largely around JavaScript or iOS or both, as far as the size concerns?
No, for JS.
We didn't have any claim for iOS size, but probably it's also big. I don't know. They didn't notice.
I'm like in the middle of having a Twitter discussion about size, like right now. So like I'm literally trying to open. We have this size test run internally. We have this blog post we've been working on for about 6 months. It's just never been published. Doing size tests. It's interesting. Going back to actually to the collections thing. I guess few things. One, the stately collections, kind of whatever. I am somewhat looking forward to the new memory model, although it's going to be a little while. But I'm hoping we'll get some previews sometime soon. Right now, for SQLite, actually, the internal driver, I'm coming up with. I don't know if we're going to publish a thing, but we're taking like iOS's just dictionary and list and wrapping them in some protections around concurrency and just using them, frankly, rather than trying to do anything more exotic. But you got to be careful, because if you write your own concurrency code and things don't work right, there's obviously potential for issues. But it's an interesting thing. What do you think if that new memory model becomes stable? I guess this is a loaded question. Like, do you think that'll help with adoption? Like, of course it's going to help with adoption, because then you don't have to worry about the weirdness of the memory model. I guess it's like not even a useful question. But anyway.
No, I was just saying, for us, this whole memory thing, like, I think it is a friction that you have to deal with. It's also like a paradigm shift. If you come from the Java world, you need to understand how this works. But yeah, it's something that is the reality of the technology right now.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's not just Java. I mean, even in iOS, everyone is new to this approach to the immutability approach. I think I remember someone, I don't know if it is official or not, but someone were considering just to relax that restriction. So you can adopt it for Kotlin native if you want it, but you can just have a regular memory usage on Kotlin native. It was a big problem just for me, but also for the iOS guys, because if they have an object that was built inside the library with Kotlin native, it will have this restriction. But objects that are built or created, instantiated outside the library in the regular iOS approach won't have this restriction. So it's a bit messy, the integration right now. So for me, it will be great just to have like a regular object. I will take care of immutability of the concurrency problems to relax this, because we don't want to actually have coroutines or all the stuff that this was meant for. So, but we don't have that right now, at least at the moment that I was working on that.
The hallmark of a good engineering team is that you're able to solve challenges. And something we don't shy away from is that every technology has challenges. And of course, KMP does too. You brought up earlier, like it wasn't like Flutter where you had a whole new language. So you had that going for you with KMP, but you still ran into challenges. And part of the thing is, what challenges do you run into? Is it, how do you solve them? How do you work around them? Is there a way to say, okay, that was a bad decision, let me try something else? And some choices are more difficult to do all of those things. And so I think you're doing a great job with recognizing those challenges and working through them. And why Kevin is asking is because we're here to support our clients, and we're here to support the community to make their way through those challenges. So thank you for raising those and bringing those up.
Thank you. And it's not like Android has no challenges or iOS, like each platform comes with its own baggage. It's not like it's all a green field here, but I think here, or at least both of us, we see it as like a step into the direction we see like coding and like development is going. And we're excited about it. And we're happy to be one of the people contributing to this from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly, right? Investing in innovation on the engineering front and what the future might look like. So you're certainly on your way there with a lot of the questions that you've already answered, and I'm sure there'll be more to answer. I wanted to open it up to my folks. Anything else from a technical perspective? Any other additional questions you want to ask before we kind of close out here?
Have you guys tried out the new backend at all, or are you still using the legacy one? Because I know that's where most of the size improvements they've been focusing on are.
To be honest, we're still stuck with Kotlin 1.3. We have a task. We are now both working finally at mobile platform team, which is our core team dedicated to mobile as a whole. The library now is inside the scope of this team, and we have a task, but it's not prioritized this quarter to work on that, to migrate and try what breaks and what improves in Kotlin 1.4. Hopefully the size will be one of those stuff. But I mean, again, in JavaScript side, the way we solve or mitigate this issue was to apply in the shake technology. This is a plugin that comes with Kotlin. And then basically we'll strip off anything from the library that you are not using in your code. And that's one of the main reasons why we can scale the solution into a new libraries. Because now we have a Kotlin that is a Kotlin library that is shake only, this shrink only for the library that we are publishing. And we're going to have a second one with the new library that was going to be a mess. So right now we put this on hold until we can find another solution if we decide to scale to another. Because there was other teams that wanted to do something with multi-platform as well. And I said to them, okay, don't do this for now because I know we have this problem with the second, if we add a second library. I don't know. I mean, let's hope that maybe in Kotlin 1.4 it's solved, or maybe it will be in 1.5, but I see the picture that in the future will have, for me, multi-platform libraries, not just Kotlin multi-platform as a base code, as it's think right now, but being able to publish multi-platform libraries that you can consume natively in any platform, not just in the Kotlin build, in the great build or Kotlin build. That's for me the big picture. If we as a community can achieve that, it will be a game changer, because then you can just write once for all the platforms. It's a library, you can consume it, and you have assured that by the language that it's the same logic on all the platforms.
And that just saves a lot of time and money, as you guys are aware of.
My final question, right? Looking back at this journey, the experiences learned both from a technical perspective, both from a people management perspective. If I were to ask you, what is like the best way to kind of have your enthusiasm for this new approach that you're looking to implement with Kotlin Multiplatform? What is the best way to kind of share that with the other folks on your team and kind of either get developers, get management, any lessons that you've learned on how to bring people along to kind of realize this vision that you have for what the future might look like?
So like in our case, it was more of a necessity that pushed us into that direction. It wasn't something that is like, hey, this is cool, let's do this. It was like, hey, we need to solve this problem now and let's get on. I think the biggest challenge to scale or like to get more adoption within your organization, I think, is convincing your fellow engineers from iOS or JS to contribute and consume these libraries. At the beginning, people are averse. They don't want to do this. They feel they're going to spend less time doing on the stuff that they like. But eventually, I think Kotlin is a great language. A lot of people like using it. It's easy to learn. And especially for iOS developers, like Kotlin and Swift are more or less the same syntactically, at least. So yeah, so it's just about really trying to put yourself in their situation, do a lot of pair programming, showing them the benefit, basically try to get them to see the solution through your eyes. And like, this is, at least personally, this is how I was able to get more people on board. What about you?
I was thinking the answer, to be honest. I want to split this answer into from a dreamer perspective and then from a realistic perspective. From a dreamer perspective, I will say it will be easy. I mean, for you as an engineer to sell this to business, to sell this to anyone, actually, it's easy because at the end you will say, we can do this only once, make sure it runs on any platform. So you don't need to have multiple people working on this with the issues that they may having this. Let's do it. I mean, let's have an app from scratch. If you have an app from scratch and you want to have it, I mean, scale or the beginning, let's do it. I mean, it's a nice technology to try to work on. It's easy to do. You may have some issues, but if this is the core of your technology, of your app, then you won't have any issues. Then from a realistic perspective, if you're in a company already that they have its own products, and this product as us is already start, and they have the, like, I mean, web is using Vue, iOS is using Xcode or Swift or whatever. It's easy to say, let's switch to Kotlin Multiplatform, because they can, basically. They need to throw all the application away and start it from scratch. Or you can go with this hybrid that we build. So if you are in that position, I mean, which is probably most of the companies that right now are in this position, they have their own products and they want to try something in Kotlin Multiplatform. Basically, the way I picture it, you have two ways. Either you start an app or a solution from scratch, or you try to follow this path that we will happy to assist you, because we need to do a lot of tooling, building, and research on this. Basically, just focus on a small problem. A problem that you may improve with Kotlin Multiplatform, but if it fails or if it's become too messy, you can easily switch back to the previous solution or replace it with pretty much less effort in the native technology. So focus on that. Give it a try, research something, and build something. The way we did this was by publishing native, as I say, by publishing native packages, so they won't break any builds that they have already, at least in theory. But that would be my advice. So focus on a problem that you can manage. Don't try to go big and say, we're going all switching to Kotlin Multiplatform if you have that already started, because it's going to fail probably. Because there is a lot of challenge to do. The rest is just try, keep trying, research, maybe help. I mean, not just research, contribute, make your solutions, make them public, make suggestions to other people, like as you are doing with the collections. I know your library is bigger than that, but this is the part that I remember. But let's try to do this. I mean, I don't want to say that this is the future, but this is a good direction for the future, the way it's going. I see the end at some point, the vision. But I also know that we are far away from that vision right now. I mean, we need to keep we need to be working on this.
You need to remember that worst case scenario, you end up with like an Android variant that works, that you can still use.
That's what we talk about all the time, right? On the Android side, it's really no risk. On the iOS side, it's recoverable. You can kind of scale back if you need to, and you don't have to throw everything out. You don't have to start everything from scratch. So the fact that it's incremental is certainly appreciated. And I'm glad that you saw benefit from that approach. And that was the approach that you took, because I do think we share a lot of the same philosophy, right? In terms of wanting to do things better, trying things out, and keep, fighting to make them work. And then also the fact that we also use the same kind of framework in some parts of our organization is great. I want to thank you both. This was amazing. There was so much information shared here, and the transparency and the fact that you were able to kind of share the good parts, the bad parts, I think will be super beneficial to the community. Is there anything that you want to kind of promote, tell our audience about, any parting things like that? If not, totally fine. But just wanted to give you an opportunity for that.
If you are in any of the countries that we operate in, use Glovo.
I look forward to that. I look forward to that when the world opens back up, to definitely download the app, and I'll ping you when I make my first order. So thank you both. Thanks to the folks on our side as well. And we'll conclude here another episode of Touchlab Share with the amazing Glovo team.